For this tiny episode, the focus is starting from the scratch. Your advice to newbies. In a word, what's it?
Don't spend too much time preparing to write. You can spend half an hour sharpening your pencil and getting the papers in order. Start writing right away. And also, don't forget that in order to write, you've got to read a lot. And when you read very critically to appreciate the way the best writers do things. Even now at this stage of my life, when I have problems, I start reading Graham Greene. Because he's not only a master of style, but he's also a master of technique. So if I have technical problems, I will read something that he has done that is similar. And also, of course, other writers, contemporary writers, my own colleagues, Indian writers, American writers, anyone. And if you see techniques, like some 3 years ago, I came across a Portuguese writer, very modern, very difficult to read. But when he is setting a scene here in this room, he has conversations going on between different people at the same time. And I thought, what a wonderful way of doing things. But it's so difficult to do, right? But one has to try it.
That's true.
One has to accept new ideas and try things.
Getting started is tough, How do you build confidence by getting published if you're a newbie?
If you're a newbie, before you send something out, the tendency for a newbie is to think, this is great. I've already done this, look how well it reads. But then one has to, either on one's own or with somebody else's help, begin to edit it. One does not edit one's own writing while writing it. When you're writing a sentence, you don't hesitate between one word and the other. You've got to write it fast.
Yeah.
But after the whole thing is done, then you look for things that you could do better. Turn passive sentences into active sentences. Dante, when he wrote the Divine Comedy, he divided the Italian language into hirsute, hairy words and smooth words.
I see.
And then he began to choose. He didn't want everything to be absolutely smooth. He wanted some hairy words in the middle and some caterpillar words.
I see.
So also, sometimes people write very staccato sentences. The whole thing is 3 words, full stop, period. And so it will work for one paragraph. But you've got to have short sentences and a long flowing sentence, or many flowing sentences of different lengths. So it is this kind of pacing.
Yeah.
And you have to develop read your work aloud to yourself.
These kind of tricks that you're describing, they are part of the journalistic profession and drilled into us from a very early stage.
Yes, they are.
But otherwise, is it possible to learn it from, say, books or what?
Yes, if you read good books, you'll find it there too. But you've got to be able to analyze the way the man writes.
And there are books on the mechanics of writing, which you would also think is important?
Yes, they do. They do save you a lot of time. Because they will show you things that you may not discover until you've really gone a long way.
Who do you rate to be the best writers in the world? People from which country? Americans because they write it simply, or?
I would not say that, because so many people are writing now.
Yeah.
Manil Suri wrote a novel called The Death of Vishnu.
I see.
Which is a fantastic novel, incredible. I can't stop admiring the way he wrote it. One of the most powerful novels ever was written by Graham Greene, and it was called The Power and the Glory. And that was written in 1939 or so. Mulk Raj Anand's Coolie and The Untouchable, when they came out, it was like an explosion in my mind when I read these. Because for the first time I smelled the soil of India.
I see.
I heard the cuss words too.
Yeah.
But it was so different from the King's English, and yet it was classic.
Even in terms of news writing, there are different styles.
Yes.
And of all of them, I think that, I'm most impressed by the way Reuters puts things, for instance. Would you have any favorites in that sense of, say, news writing styles or?
It's hard to say. Let me say that I used to admire the New York Times style, but sometimes it's so diffuse.
Yeah.
At one time, Time magazine used to be very crisp in its writing.
I see.
No longer. Sometimes India Today has some sparkling writing.
Yeah.
Right? But a few weeks ago, they came out with something that was so scary.
Yeah.
Because it was so wrong.
As far as Indian writing goes, how do you rate it currently and how do you see it evolving? Indian writing in English, I mean.
I think many of the writers are excellent, but I've seen a trend. They have discovered that sex brings big advances.
I see.
So you get all kinds of books written whose sole purpose is to get the big advance.
I see.
So there are sex scenes all the time.
I see.
The story is secondary. With Manil Suri,
Yeah.
The Death of Vishnu, the story is fantastic. And also the scene that he sets and the challenge that he sets himself. There's a woman coming down the stairs of an apartment house in Bombay, and she sees Vishnu lying on the stairs. And she wants to offer him a cup of tea, but she doesn't know whether he's alive or dead.
I see.
Just that one scene gets you hooked right away. The way he phrases it. And then the whole novel is when he is in this semi-state. And you wonder, is he going to die? And his mother tells him, you're Vishnu, you're Vishnu. And he begins to believe that he is Vishnu.
I see.
And you want to find out
I see.
what will happen when he finally crosses the line. Will he discover that he is Vishnu or that he is not Vishnu?
I see.
It's so persuasive.
And lastly, if you were 18 and had to start it all over again, what point would you choose to start things from? Where would you have gone for a job to get started?
To get started,
Yeah, with the hindsight of all the experiences you've had.
where would I be?
Wherever.
If I were in Goa wanting to get started, the lure of the Times would be the salaries and the fact that it's a national and international newspaper. But when I started in Bombay with Blitz, the first thing that Karanja did to me, he said, I want you to learn the trade from the bottom. So he sent me to the Mehtas who had the Jame Jamshed, which was a Parsi paper. It had one English page.
I see.
And he put me in charge of that English page. And I had to go down to the press and get my fingers dirty with printer's ink and do the proofreading and everything else.
Yeah.
Make up the page,
I
do
see.
all this kind of thing. So now you don't have that kind of
That's true.
press room experience anymore. It's all on the computers.
But are you saying that your starting point would have been journalism in any case?
Would
even
have been
now?
journalism,
Yeah.
yes.
So you advise people to start probably there, not things like more complex things like books, novels, and
No, because journalism gives you a discipline that is very important. When I was with the National Standard, the Indian Express, every day I had to write 2 columns, no matter what, 2 full-length columns and 2 editorials, minimum.
Right. So the pressure of actually keeping on at it, which